Hi everyone, welcome to or welcome back to my channel, So Little Time, and my name is Karen. So today's vlog then is going to be a fabric haul, and I think this is my first fabric haul video that I've ever done. I mean, I know I've showed you what I've got in my stash and what patterns I've paired them up with, as I gave you an update on that recently, but this is the first time that I've actually bulk bought fabric that I'm going to be showing you. And the reason for that is because I went to So Brum this weekend, which was an absolutely amazing day, as you can imagine. So I went down on early Saturday morning as my husband wanted to watch the rugby that was on at 9 o'clock in the morning. So it takes about an hour to get to Birmingham from where I live. So we were staying at my mother-in-law and father-in-law's house. So he dropped me into town at half time. So that worked out quite well. So we met up at John Lewis at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was really excited to go this year. I mean, last year was my first year in attendance of it, and it's organised by Charlotte of An English Girl at Home, and she does an absolutely amazing job getting it all organised. And this year, yeah, I was particularly excited to go because there were quite a few of the ladies who I know from the sewing sort of community on YouTube and Instagram, and I arranged to meet up with Adele from Button and Pip and Angela of Devon Threadtales. And there were also quite a few others there as well. So I'm sorry if I don't name drop everybody because I can't remember everybody's names, but there was Becky of Notes of a Sewing Room. I think that's right. And there was also Anna of You Got Me in Stitches, and there were a lot of other ladies as well who I managed to have a good chat with and say hello to. So also, if you were there and you came and said hello to me, thank you ever so much. It really does mean a lot to me that you took the time to come over and say how much you enjoyed my channel and that kind of thing. So yeah, my head was like, but anyway, onto the fabric then. So I went with a list and I did try to stick to it as much as possible. So we met up at John Lewis, like I say, in the cafe at 10 o'clock, and then we went off into our little groups and went around the fabric shops. So firstly we went to the Birmingham Rag Market, which is basically your typical outside market, indoor market, where they've got lots of stalls and you do find cheaper fabrics on there. The quality of some aren't great, but you do find some real gems if you have a good rifle through, you know, and the cost of those are quite reasonable. So I firstly picked up then some sort of coating style fabric to make a coatigan with. Now the patterns I'm pairing these fabrics up with, I'll probably have to insert photos because I don't have some of the patterns yet. I need to go out and purchase them. So I'll show you the first fabric that I picked up, which was on the Birmingham Rag Market. So it's this lovely blue, navy blue fabric that I got off a stall there, and it's £5 a metre, and I got 2.5 metres, and this is to make the Jessie coatigan. So I'll insert that photo. So I think this will be really suitable for it because it's, if I open it out a little bit for you, it's quite sort of movable, if you know what I mean. It's not too stiff, so I think it would be really suitable for that. And you don't line the Jessie coatigan, so it's not going to be a lined one. And this is exactly the same on the front as on the back. So it's got like a waffle sort of weave to it, and it's really lovely and soft. So I'm going to wash that on a wool setting or a delicate cycle on my washing machine because I don't want it to shrink if I ever do have to wash it after it's been made up. Now the Jessie coatigan, it looks quite oversized. Now I bought the pattern when it came out, I think it must have been last year or maybe earlier at the beginning of this year, and I've not made it up yet, so it's a new pattern for me to try out, and it does look quite, like I say, generous in its sizing. And I've looked at the finished garment measurements, and I think I'm probably going to go with the smallest size, which is the size 8. But I might even have to take that in because it does look like it's got loads of ease in it. And I've already had a Google on Instagram and on, you know, on the web to have a look at other people's makes of it, and it does come up really big. And I did see one lady had made a belt, so you can wrap it round a little bit like a dressing gown style. So it cinches it in at the waist. So I might do that as well because I think I might have enough fabric to do that. Or I suppose you could just pair it with a regular belt. So that's my first sort of plan, and I would like to get that done imminently. And then on the outside bit of the rag market, we were looking at this stall because Becky from Notes of a Sewing Room, she noticed that they'd got some Liberty on there. And I've never actually bought Liberty fabric before, but this particular fabric, because to be honest, I'm not really a fan of their patterns so I'm probably one of the few people that don't like them. But yeah, like I say, I've never bought Liberty. So I saw this and I really liked this design, and it's like on a very grey-blue background with these little hearts on, which you can see they've got greens and reds in. And I really liked that, and the actual drape of it and the feel of it is absolutely gorgeous. So obviously the quality of Liberty that you'd expect. And I only bought a metre of that, and it was £8 a metre, so dead cheap. And I'm going to make an Ogden cami out of that, and I'll insert a photo of the Ogden cami as well. Yeah, just because I only bought a metre, so I think that's probably the best thing to make out of it. And I always pair up my Ogden camis with, you know, the Blackwood cardigan, so I can wear it in the autumn winter time, so that's fine. And I was looking for some fabric to make another Blackwood cardigan, you know, like a navy sort of jersey material, but I couldn't find anything the right sort of consistency, as it were, the right thickness, what I was looking for, so I didn't get any. So I'm still on the lookout for some navy jersey fabric. Then we went to Barry's Fabrics, and they are a big sort of warehouse style place where they've got just stacks and stacks of fabrics all up to the ceiling, piled up everywhere, but it's really quite easy to go around because it is put in sections of what type of material it is. And I picked up some lining fabric from there, which I was going to get from the fancy silk store, but I saw it in Barry's, so I bought it from there in the end. And it's just this blue anti-static lining, so I did pay slightly more for it than I would have done at the fancy silk store, because that's £1.99 a metre there. I think this was about £2 something a metre, so still dead cheap. So that is going to be the lining for my Freya dress, which is for this hashtag swap show sew share. I probably got that all around the wrong way, but I'll put it on the bottom of the screen, again organised by Rosie of Rosie Sews Modern Vintage and Jane of Loopy Mabel's Closet. So the dress that has been chosen for me for that particular challenge was the Freya dress, which I showed you in my last vlog. This pinafore style dress here, which has got crossover straps at the back. And I picked up my fabric from Crafty So-and-So on Thursday or Friday before I went down to Birmingham, and I bought some navy needle cord, fine needle cord, absolutely gorgeous quality. Again, it's got a lot more structure than any of the needle cords that I've used previously. Yeah, and it's absolutely gorgeous, you know, quality. So I'm really looking forward to using that. So I'm just going to line it with that fabric. That's coming up quite light because of the window, but it's basically near enough the same colour. So that will stop it sticking to my tights when I make that. So I've just got to wash all these fabrics as well. So, and then whilst I was in Barry's, I was looking at some coating fabric because I'm interested in making the Sew Over It Chloe coat, and I was looking at their boiled wools and that type of thing, but I didn't see anything of the particular colour that I wanted. I was after sort of an in-between a red and a pink, so a bit of a raspberry kind of colour with a bit of depth and warmth in it, but I didn't find that colour in there, so I thought, oh, I'll wait till I go to Guthrie and Garney, because I had seen some on their website. I can't remember what colour it was called now on the website. It wasn't claret. I think it was garnet. Yeah, that was it. So that was the one I was going to Guthrie and Garney to have a look at. So I thought I'll probably end up spending a bit more on theirs, but still, I want the colour right. So whilst I was in Barry's then, I didn't get any coating, but I did pick up some scuba fabric, which wasn't on my radar at all, so deviated away from my list. But I want to make the Deer and Doe Sirocco jumpsuit. Now, I haven't got that pattern either, so I'll insert a picture of that one. So I'd like to make that into this gorgeous scuba that I got. And it's like a dusky pink, but you can see that these roses on it are a little bit sort of metallic in a way. I think they will wash fine, absolutely fine, but I'm really excited to get that made into the Sirocco jumpsuit. Now, Adele from Button and Pip, she's made the jumpsuit before in a sort of lilac-y grey scuba, I think she said it was, and she told me that she used about 2.5 metres, so that's what I bought, and this was £5.95 a metre, and we got 10% discount off at Barry's for being a So Brum attendee. So yeah, that only cost me about £13, something for 2.5 metres. So again, a real bargain. And it is just something slightly different. So it's going to be more of a dressy jumpsuit. Now, what I think I'm going to do is on this particular jumpsuit, the legs are tapered, and I don't think that would suit me, just because I don't think it will balance right with my hips. So I know Amanda of I Sew a Lot has done this jumpsuit, and what she did was straighten the legs out. Where they start tapering in, she just changed the lines to go straight down, and she also cropped them as well, and that looks absolutely beautiful. So I think I'll be copying that, but I don't know if I might go full length to the floor. I'm not really sure. I suppose I'll cut it out like that and then shorten it if I feel that I prefer it that way. So that's that fabric then that I got. And then that was, I think, oh no, that wasn't all I purchased. So then we went on to Guthrie and Garney, where they were holding the raffle as well, and they also had 10% discount off their fabrics for the So Brum attendees as well. And they had coffee and cake and lemonade there as well. And to be honest, I was really naughty and skipped lunch just because we were so busy. So we didn't actually get to the fancy silk store just because time ticked on, because there was a bigger group of us. We were chatting a lot more, so time was just getting ahead of us. And also Adele and Becky and Angela, they were off back up to Ashby-de-la Zouch to go to Sew Your Own Wardrobes evening party that they had going on, which was a Parisian style party. So you're supposed to dress in a theme for Paris. And I didn't know about it. So unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to go to that, as I'd already organised to stay over in Birmingham at my in-laws. So next time I will hopefully attend that. So they had to leave slightly earlier to go there, so we kind of split off. And there was a couple of ladies that were with us in our group as well. I'm sorry, I don't know your names. And I think we lost you, so I'm really sorry if you're watching this vlog and we lost you at some point en route anywhere. But thank you for joining us on our trip around the shops. I hope you got round okay. Anyway, so back to Guthrie and Garney. Yeah, we got there and I had to look round the fabrics, and I knew that I was looking for obviously the navy jersey, but I didn't find any there because it was the modal jersey, which is a lot more slinky and thinner than one that I was looking for the Blackwood, so I didn't find anything there. And I went over and had a look at this garnet boiled wool, and the colour did slightly differ to what it looks like on screen. So I do recommend, if you are putting money into buying a fabric for a coat and it's going to cost you quite a bit of money, then definitely go and handle the fabric and have a look at it before you buy it online, because it doesn't always look the same. So it wasn't quite the colour I was after, and also the texture as well was a lot more thicker than I thought it was going to be. So I thought it would make the coat a lot more sort of bubbly and bouncy, so it wasn't really what I was after. So in the end, I did spend a little bit more than I wanted to, but I bought some of the boiled wool, the Melton wool. I'll just grab it. I've got it separate in a bag to keep it separate from everything else. And I went with this colour in the end, which is like this teal, bluey, greeny kind of colour. And the quality of this fabric, I cannot tell you, it is absolutely gorgeous. And it's a lot more, it's not as bouncy and bubbly, so it's a lot flatter. And I think that would suit the Chloe coat really well, because I know it's got set-in sleeves and there's quite a lot of easing, so I didn't want too much ruching up like this. And also it's got just a round collar, so it's not got like a collar on it as such, it's just like a round cardigan sort of style, and I think that would sit nice and flat. And I'm going to do the zip version, so where it's got an open-ended zip on it. So I'm going to order those supplies from Sew Over It itself, because they have zips and the ice wall for the shoulders, and yeah, interfacing, tailoring interfacing. I need to get hold of some of that as well. So this was £29.40 a metre, and I bought 2.5 metres. So yeah, you work out that cost. It was quite an investment piece, and I've never spent money on fabric like that ever before. So I did feel a little bit overwhelmed at the till handing that money over, but like I say, I'd set money aside to go on this trip to Birmingham, so I didn't feel too bad, and in the morning I didn't regret it, but I'm really looking forward to making that coat. So I'm going to make a toile of it, and firstly I did think I'd make a calico toile, just one to just test the fit on it. And I've got the E-class, and I watched a little bit of it the other day, and it does look really straightforward to follow, and she explains how to measure yourself properly to get the right fit. So I'm going to be either making the 8 or the 10. I'm just going to have to measure myself properly, but yeah, I'm definitely not cutting into that until I get the fit absolutely spot on. So I think I'm going to make a upholstery style version. I know Cheryl of Stitchy Bee made one, and that looked absolutely wonderful. So it would be nice to make one like that. So I think that would see me through to the spring next year. And I think it's nice to make a wearable toile rather than make one just out of calico and, you know, just waste of fabric really. So I'm going to have a go at that. I know it means buying some of the supplies again, but the zips aren't that expensive and that type of thing. And if you're making a wearable garment, then I think it's worthwhile to get the fit right. And an upholstery fabric, I think, would give me the sort of same amount of thickness as this. And obviously this is a lined coat, so I haven't bought the lining as yet because I want to buy some nice sort of jazzy lining to match with that colour. When I was thinking of buying sort of the raspberry pinky reddy colour, my viscose fabric, the navy blue viscose fabric with those pinky red flowers on that I got from Crafty So and So, that would have been ideal for lining it, because on the actual online class, she's used that lining for her pink version. So I was like, oh brilliant, I've already got that lining, but obviously I didn't end up getting that colour, so I can't use that lining now. Yes, and then whilst I was at Guthrie & Garney, then upstairs where the raffle was taking place, there was a pattern swap and a fabric swap. So I took 2 fabrics to swap, and I think I ended up putting 3 patterns in, but I didn't come away with any patterns. There just wasn't anything that I fancied. So the fabrics that I put in, I ended up putting in the cotton spot fabric that I showed you in my last vlog, which I got from that D-stash for the charity Click Sargent. And I ended up putting that back in just because I think it was just too stiff, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to make with it, and I knew it was just going to end up being sat there for a long time and just, you know, be a waste. And then the other one I put in was that red and white sort of marl effect linen fabric, which I was considering making the Tilly and the Buttons Ariel skirt for, and I just decided, you know, I wasn't a fan of it in the end, and I was just going to be making that skirt to use that fabric up. I still probably will make that skirt at a later date, but I still haven't purchased that, and I'll have to buy fabric specifically for it, but it wouldn't have been my first choice of fabric for it anyway, so I thought I'll pop that in. And I luckily came away with 2 fabrics, so in replace of the ones that I've given, I've got some. So I picked up this jersey fabric. It's coming up really bright on the screen, but it's like a corally red kind of pinky colour, and this is a remnant because it looks like it's an offcut of somebody else's, and there is 1.6 metres, and it's already been washed at 30 degrees. So if you're watching and you put this in, thank you very much. I'm hoping to make a Blackwood cardigan out of this. I think I might have enough 1.6 metres because I usually buy 2 metres for doing that pattern, but I end up having loads left over. If not, I can just shorten it to make the shorter version, I suppose. So that's what that fabric is lined up for, and that's quite a nice thickness. I think it might be the same sort of thickness as my mustard one, which I found perfect. And then I picked up this lovely seersucker material, and it's like a browny, beigey colour with cream background. And I really, really like the texture of that. I love seersucker. I've never used it before, but I've always liked seersucker material. And that's definitely going to be turned into a summer dress. So it probably isn't going to be made up this year. I'll do it next year for sure. I don't know whether I need to line it. Possibly. It's not majorly thick, I don't think. So I'll probably need to line it. Yeah, it's quite sheer. You know, especially if the sunlight's shining through your legs, you can see everything. So I will, line that one, but that'll be, like I say, for next year then. On my last vlog, I had a few questions sent to me just about my bateen dress, the way I'd done the waist slightly different. Somebody wanted to know, you know, when they made it, when they get to that sort of place in the pattern, if they would know what to do. So I've turned my bateen dress inside out to show you the difference, and also I wanted to just go through the lining of my Clio dresses, because I did actually have a few questions about that as well. So I'll firstly just go on to the bateen then. So I've turned my bateen dress inside out. Now, the waistband here, you can see that I've got the edge overlocked. This would usually be down here. So you would flip it down and then create the casing. It's really, really hard to kind of explain unless you're actually in the process of making the dress up. But you can see where the pockets are there. And yeah, so when you stitch the skirt and the top together, you then have quite a big seam allowance. So basically where you stitch it here, you have this big seam allowance, and that creates the elastic casing. So usually you would then fold that seam allowance down and start stitching around, leaving a gap to insert the elastic. But instead of folding it down, I've folded it up so that it just doesn't create as much blousing over the waistband with the fabric. And I overlocked the edges, I think, at some point where it was doable. Probably after you've attached the skirt and the top section of the dress together, I then overlocked the edge of that seam allowance, then flipped it up and then stitched it to make the casing. So I hope that makes sense, because usually that would be down rather than up here. Yeah, it would just be folded down. So I hope that does make sense. When you do come to that point on the pattern, it will tell you to fold it down. You just fold it up and then stitch around it sort of close to the edge. So my overlocking, you can see, is there, and then I've got my black stitching line just underneath it. But I think it does tell you the distance to do it, because obviously your elastic is a specific width. So that's that one. So hopefully that makes sense for you. And then for my Clios then, where I've lined one, what I should have said is I've interlined it, and what that means is you cut out basically the dress pattern pieces in the lining and in your outer fabric, and then you place them wrong sides together and treat them as one piece and baste them around the edge basically. So I'm going to grab my Clio. I've turned my pink one inside out, so you'll see that the stitching lines are still visible because I have treated it as one piece. So I haven't lined the facings and I haven't lined the straps. So you literally just need to cut out the two back pieces and the two front pieces, and I also haven't lined the pocket either. It is literally just the dress pieces that I've interlined. So like I say, you cut out the dress pieces in both the outer and lining, place them wrong sides together, and then baste around the edge within the seam allowance. So you just literally do it, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or something very small, just literally to tack it together. And then you treat those pieces as one piece and make the dress up as per normal. So that's why you can see my stitching lines, because it's called interlining. So on the edges, you know, they're just, and this is before I had my overlocker as well, so I've just overlocked the edges with the foot that I had at the time, so they're not that neat. And then at the bottom I've just hemmed it as per normal, but I've used bias binding just to give it a bit more weight at the bottom and to keep the length of the dress as well, because I have since obviously added 1.5 inches to the length of the dress, but sometimes I think with this particular fabric I didn't have enough and it would still come up quite short. Anyway, yeah, so that's how I've done it. So I hope that really does make sense now. So it's not lined as in how you would line a normal dress, where you treat the lining completely separate to the outer fabric. You just treat it as one piece together, and then make the dress up as per the instructions that Tilly provides. So hopefully that has answered the questions. I'm sorry, I should have been more thorough in my last video. Yeah, so I hope that makes sense. So also just an update on the whole Leicester Marathon situation. It ended up being cancelled. Can you believe it? This past week or so that we've had, or a couple of weeks in the UK, we've had quite a lot of rainfall. And our rivers and canals and reservoirs and that kind of thing have just burst their banks and overflowed. So we've had flooding in all sorts of areas. And where the Leicester Marathon route goes through, there is quite a lot of sort of windy lanes and that kind of thing next to fields, where you're out in the farmland and that kind of stuff. So obviously there was roads flooded, and I think they tried as much as possible to reroute the marathon, but it goes through Watermead Park, which is got lots and lots of water there, and the footpaths were absolutely flooded. And even though the rain had kind of died off towards the back end of this week, it just wasn't enough drainage time. And my husband, he works for the Environment Agency and looks after like the rivers and canals and that kind of thing, and his team were on standby and had been on call and all sorts, and he was late back from work quite a lot as well. And I said to him, you know, can't they reroute it anyway? And he said, well, you know, no, because the amount of effort that goes into road closures and diversions for the cars and that kind of thing, he said it takes months and months of planning. So, you know, yeah, it's an absolute shame, you know, for the organisers. They didn't take the decision lightly to cancel it. And obviously all the runners who were taking part were really disappointed because of the training they put in. So it actually hasn't been postponed, it's been cancelled. So it's just going to go ahead next year, all being well, if the weather's okay next year. So luckily for me, obviously I wasn't doing it anyway, so my deferral has been honoured and I'll be doing it next year, fingers crossed. But those people that were doing it, I think they said, you know, they would refund their entry fee if they wanted, but because it's for charity, they were kind of hoping that people would donate their entry fee to Loros charity, which I think the majority of people would have done, to be honest. And also they did say if you do go out and do your half marathon or marathon somewhere else where you can do the route, you know, and you can prove that you've actually done that distance, you would get a virtual medal. So I think a lot of people did go ahead and do that, because I know a lot of people in my running club went out and did the half marathon on the Sunday just somewhere else, and they'd organised the route. So well done to them, because I know this weekend the weather was up and down wherever you were in the country. Luckily for us on Saturday it stayed dry for So Brum, so that was lovely. So yes, I think that's all I've got to talk to you about today then. So that was my fabric haul. Really nice to have added a bit to my stash because I was getting low. Yeah, and some new patterns that I'll be trying out then. So hopefully I'll be able to get most of those done this year. I mean, the Chloe coat, it's quite an involved make. It's going to be my first ever coat. So I'm excited and nervous to do it. And I really hope that it works out well. So I'm going to buy some upholstery fabric. I'm just going to knit to Dunelm and pick some up because they're not too pricey there. And I don't mind spending like 20 or 30 pounds on upholstery fabric, because I'd definitely, you know, spend that on a coat for sure in the shops. Yes, so I hope you like my fabrics then. Let me know what you think. And nice to have you here with me again today. Thank you very much. I shall see you again soon. Bye.